Okay, my name is Farai Maguhu. I work with the Center for Natural Resource Governance, and we promote, or rather we defend the rights of communities affected by mining in Zimbabwe. The situation is actually symptomatic of the general situation in the mining sector in Zimbabwe, especially after government adopted extractivism as their model of development in the early 2000s. And we saw the militarization, the securitization, and the politicization of the mineral sector, where we saw generals, politicians, getting a stake in mining companies. That saw a rise in the violation of labor rights, in human rights violations, in pollution, because these are not miners. These are they are kind of opportunists who are simply taking advantage of their positions in government and the military. So it is not a surprise that government own 42% shares in the Hwange Colliery. And we all know the government of Zimbabwe that it is not pro-worker. It is about accumulation by the elites. It is also not a surprise that government has been sending people like Obed Mpofu to Hwange, not to address the problem, but to silence the community. In other words, government is saying to the women, you're making noise, you must shut up. And it's the same we've seen in Marange, we've seen that in Penalonga, we've seen that in Mtoko. The government of Zimbabwe protects the rights of mining companies, and they don't protect the communities and the workers. So that's what we're seeing in Hwange. The women are very much justified to be doing what they are doing. First and foremost, these men have been earning half salary for the past 5 years, and yet they've continued to be returning to work the next day. They've been eating. They've had their clothes washed every week. They've had care at home provided by these women. So the women have been actually subsidizing the colliery through their unpaid labor. They work in the fields, they produce food, they feed these men who are not paid at the colliery. We also talk about women reproducing the mine labor force. Most of the families in Hwange have been there for over 70 years. And some of the people working in Hwange, they were actually born in the colliery. So these women must not be taken as aliens from the colliery. They are actually a very critical stakeholder in the company. Without them, Hwange Colliery should have closed long back. So they are very justified, and they should not be seen only as people demanding the payment of their spouses. They are part of the Hwange community. They back up the Hwange staff. Without them, these men would have stopped going to work a long time ago. I think the first thing that we need is research to investigate what really is happening. What are the workers owed? We also need to, for instance, look at what happened with Hwange. Now we have the figures. We know that the company owes the workers and the deceased workers a total of 74 million US dollars. We also need to quantify, like, the workers from Marange who were summarily dismissed when government did not renew the contracts of those mining companies. When we have these statistics, we use that as a fighting tool. Now, dialogue is not going to solve the problems in the mining communities, never. What we need is to build power from below, the power of communities, the power of the workers. People must start to organize, to demonstrate, and push for their rights. That's why you saw Emerson Mnangagwa said, government is not going to intervene in a dispute between an employer and the employees. And yet he is the employer, he is the head of state and government. And the Hwange Colliery is owned by the Zimbabwe government, which is the majority shareholder. But unless the community in Hwange really bring the colliery to a standstill, using non-violent direct action, blocking the traffic at Hwange, making noise, engaging the media, singing, demonstrating, and doing all sorts of things so that even those who buy coal from Hwange Colliery, wherever they are, will realize that this is a coal that is extracted on the backdrop of modern day slavery. And that's what we need to do in areas like Mtoko, the same Manasina Chairman of Filambereko. And the Zimbabweans are too well behaved, and that's why we've come this far, where we have a country which is very rich, but with some of the poorest people on planet Earth. Because we always take orders, even orders that are detrimental to our health and our well-being, we always receive them. So we need to build a groundswell of resistance of people who challenge extractivism and demand alternatives as well. In my view, the best way forward is direct confrontation with capital. And we have already tested that. In Penalonga last year, the community wanted to demonstrate in January 2017. And when they sent the letter of notification of the demonstration, they were invited for a meeting to Mutare by the provincial police, the provincial Central Intelligence Organization operatives, the military, and they were told in no uncertain terms that if you go ahead with the demonstration, we are going to shoot you. 2 weeks ago, there was a demonstration in Marange. After the demonstration had been cleared by the local police in Marange, the organizers were called again to Mutare by the provincial police and the CIO. They were again told, they were shown a gun, and they were told, do you see this gun? Do you know its purpose? We are going to use that on you. That tells you that when the community begin to rise, they touch the raw nerve. They affect even the image of that corporation. They tell the whole world that if you're buying these products, you are buying products which are extracted by modern day slaves. So confrontation, to me, that's the way to go. Communities must organize themselves. They must demonstrate. I know there may be loss of life, there may be injuries, and this government can use even lethal force. Because what people will be saying is to a thief that, please, stop stealing from us. And they're not going to take that line down. They're going to do everything possible. Just like Ian Smith, when he was told that stop oppressing the black people, he had to buy ammunition and start killing people. But people were resilient until independence came. So mining is modern day colonialism. All mining companies in Zimbabwe, they are under colonial rule, and they need to free themselves. I think the women have to be strong. They must know that we are behind them, we are with them all the way. And the government must continue to look itself in the mirror and remind, or rather ask themselves very tough questions. That is this really what they fought for? Is this the kind of economy that they went to the liberation struggle for, of which more than 50,000 people perished, just for a few cabinet ministers to be multi-millionaires and be filthy rich when people are dying of preventable diseases simply because they can't even afford the very basic medical care because the mining companies are not paying the workers. So we really need to take corrective action collectively as a nation and ensure that every mineral in Zimbabwe is properly accounted for, and that charity begins at home. Where mining is taking place, we want to see infrastructural development. We want to see hospitals being built. We want to see roads being constructed. And we want to see our GDP going up because we're exporting minerals. Without that, then confrontation is the way to go.
Okay, Mr. Maguhu, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.